You watch your mouth, Peckerwood. I've been called nigger, and I can't help that the way white folks is, but I ain't never been called no scab. And I ain't fixing to start up now. I go ton for ton loading coal with any man here. When I do, I expect the same dollar for the same work.
Well, you ain't men to that coal company. Your equipment, like a shovel, a gondola car, a hunk of wood brace. They'll use you till you wear out, or you break down, or you're buried under a slate fall, and then they'll get a new one. And they don't care what color it is or where it comes from. It doesn't matter how much coal you can load or how long your family has lived on this land. If you stand alone, you're just so much shit to those people. You think this man is your enemy? This is a worker. Any union keeps this man out ain't a union. It's a goddamn club. Now they got you fighting white against colored, native against foreign, holler against holler. When you know there ain't but two sides of this world, them that work and them that don't. You work, they don't. That's all you got to know about them.
You're listening.
Oh, damn it. Oh, Cliff. Fuck, I got all excited. Go ahead. All right, do the intro.
You're listening to the Left Opposition Podcast with Chris, Joe, and myself. And rest in power, James Earl Jones, portraying a character few clothes in the 1987 movie Matewan, one of the most important union movies ever made. And it's a perfect distillation to the true methodology and attitude Marxists should be taking when it comes to migrants and undocumented immigrants, all of whom are human beings deserving of dignity and solidarity from their fellow workers. How you guys doing?
I am doing great.
You know, I'm impressed by your James Earl Jones impression, but I don't think we're supposed to say that word.
Well done, Aaron. How did you even do that? That accent, man. You should play Darth Vader in something. I'll just say, too, like, when I was coming up on the labor movement, when I was getting it, I have borrowed lines from that speech, too. You know, about when I was working at FedEx organizing there, that line about we're just equipment. We don't care if we got killed loading a truck, we died from heat, loading in a 120-degree trailer. They'll just replace us tomorrow. They don't care. You know, there's a lot of good examples, but that speech is inspiring. When I was later on, when I became steward, then union rep for SEIU, whenever we had new workers, I would play this entire movie. That is really where it comes from. Like, this is really how it all, like, this is it. It's the best speech. It is based on a real thing. The Cold Wars in Virginia. The only cop I would ever support is Sid Hatfield, by the way. Number one, played by Jason Statham. He was amazing. So yes, the one cop who's a badass is in this movie too. Go see that movie, please. John Sayles makes it. He also plays the preacher guy in it too. But he did another movie called was it 6 Men Out of the Chicago Black Sox? Also really a labor issue as well. But yeah, but James Earl Jones, he also did Howard, I think a couple of speeches by Howard Zinn, the People Speak series. I forget who he did that, but but like I said, if there's one labor movie, please go watch Matewan. Then if there's a second one, watch Salt of the Earth. Those are my two best union movies.
I also throw in Pride as well.
I need to see that.
Dude,
I know.
You gotta watch
I
it.
know.
I will watch it with you.
We should do a viewing one.
Let's
these
do a
times.
watch party. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of those.
So I know
we got viewing parties. Oh shit! All right.
So I know we talked a lot about immigration last week. There's a continuing slander and blood libel against our Haitian communities, and there's also some confusion by certain members of the so-called communists in the United States, the American Communist Party, and their fellow travelers. They make the argument that Marxist communists should be against mass migration, and Marx and Lenin make this very fucking clear. Our enemy is the capitalist ruling class, not each other. And as such, it is our duty as Marxists to educate, agitate, and organize the working class into self-emancipation. And that can only be done on the basis of solidarity. Every union worker across the country needs to come together, and not only in condemnation of racist attacks in the Haitian migrant community of Springfield, Ohio, but to join the rest of us in the streets and in the workplace to welcome migrants of all kinds into our ranks as union workers. Stand side by side with them against the police and the far right. It is not enough to go, I don't care if you're purple, like so many libs say to themselves, right, to mask their racism. We have to be actively anti-racist, and that means action and not just words. Communist internationalism on this topic is made clear in Marx's 1870 letter, in which he discussed England's oppression of Ireland. And I quote, But the English bourgeoisie has also much more important interests in the present economy of Ireland. Owing to the constantly increasing concentration of leaseholds, Ireland constantly sends her own surplus to the English labor market and thus forces down wages and lowers the material and moral position of the English working class. And most important of all, every industrial and commercial center in England now possesses a working class divided into two hostile camps: English proletarians and Irish proletarians. The ordinary English worker hates the Irish worker as a competitor who lowers his standard of life. In relation to the Irish worker, he regards himself as a member of the ruling nation, and consequently he becomes a tool of the English aristocrats and capitalists against Ireland, and thus strengthening their domination over himself. He cherishes religious, social, and national prejudices against the Irish worker. His attitude toward him is much the same as that of poor whites to the Negroes of the former slave states in the USA. The Irishman pays him back with interest in his own money. He sees in the English worker both the accomplice and the stupid tool of the English rulers in Ireland. And lastly, Marx wrote, this antagonism is artificially kept alive and intensified by the press, the pulpit, the comic papers, in short, by all the means at the disposal of the ruling classes. This antagonism is the secret of the impotence of the English working class, despite its organization. It is the secret by which the capitalist class maintains its power, and the latter is quite aware of this, end quote. Lenin himself also argued you cannot be an internationalist and against immigration restrictions. Anyone who does so is buying into bourgeois nationalism. And this isn't just based on moral grounds, right? There are very real practical implications here. The only solution when a capitalist country imports cheap labor is to organize those workers into the unions to prevent the bosses from driving down wages across the board. By bringing immigrant pay up to the standards of a local worker, the boss can no longer use that immigrant laborer as a weapon against other workers. And if they go on strike, the solidarity will translate into solidarity strikes as well, paralyzing the ruling class. And this is how we fight racism, through common struggle. Lenin writes, most of the colored workers brought from China and India to work on the sugar plantations in the southern part of the Pacific are still recruited under the system of indentured labor. This fact has led to workers in the imperialist countries demanding the introduction of laws against immigration and colored labor, both in America and Australia. These restrictive laws deepen the antagonism between colored and white workers, which divides and weakens the unity of the workers' movement. The communist parties of America, Canada, and Australia must conduct a vigorous campaign against restrictive immigration laws and must explain to the proletarian masses in these countries that such laws, by inflaming racial hatred, will rebound on them in the long run. And again, he writes, the capitalists are against restrictive laws in the interests of the free importation of cheap colored labor, and with it, the lowering of the wages of white workers. The capitalist intention to take the offensive can be properly dealt with in only one way. The immigrant workers must join the ranks of the existing trade unions of white workers. Simultaneously, the demand must be raised that colored workers' pay should be brought up to the same level as the white workers' pay. Such a move on part of the communist parties will expose the intentions of the capitalists and at the same time graphically demonstrate to the colored workers that the international proletariat has no racial prejudice. And if you think it's some grand Marxist conspiracy that the ruling classes and their lapdogs purposely mislead the working class into pogroms and terror against migrant workers, check out J.D. Vance admitting he completely fabricated the eating cats and dogs story.
Ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to,
But it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
You just said that this is a story that you created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not
We are
accurate.
Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents. I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Her policies did that, but yes, we created the actual focus that allowed the American media to talk about this story and the suffering caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
It's great to say I didn't create and then say something you created. Like they're not fucking illegal immigrants, you stupid ass. It's like, oh, the current government brought in these illegal immigrants. Like, wait, I'm sorry. Who decides if someone's an illegal immigrant? You fucking idiot. Like,
they're here legally, you dumbass. But
it's a picture of a woman in front of a Trump flag, and it says, "This is Anna Kilgore, a woman in Springfield, Ohio, who reported to law enforcement that her Haitian neighbors had taken her cat. The cat was later found in her own basement. This is who MAGA is. This November, we'll remind them that this is not who we are in America." Red, blue heart and blue wave ballot box emojis.
Yeah. Well, look, it was, the rest of that's some liberal bullshit, but the cat was found. But
we'll get to some liberal bullshit because they don't get off the fucking hook here. So not only did he admit to making it up, he also lies about 20,000 so-called illegal Haitian migrants descending on the community of Springfield, right? And you're right, Chris, there is nothing illegal about these people. They're here under refugee status, which is legal under international law. Refugees from a country completely and historically fucked over by the USA and France, I might add. Not only that, they can't even vote yet, and they yet they still pay income taxes on everything they're giving back to the community. So America gains more by having them in the country, not just as cheap laborers and taxpayers, but more as workers that can now be organized and unionized as we rebuild the labor movement. And so the bourgeois media is also complicit in this bullshit and these lies. This is Rich Lowry. He is the he's
Heritage Foundation
conservative journalist and editor for the National Review, and he went on Megyn Kelly's Sirius XM show where he had a slight slip
also, for our podcast listeners, James Earl Jones is a black man, because I think he might have said something.
I think we'll be okay.
Now this guy, on the other hand, not a black guy. Now I'm saying that for a reason, spoiler, but there you go, Aaron. Let's see what the leader of the Project 2025 people. Here we go.
Incredible clip
of recordings of calls, and they've only found 2 Springfield residents calling to complain about Haitian migrants taking geese from ponds. Only 2 calls, and I think one lesson of this whole story: people don't care about geese.
So how normalized is this in his right-wing circles that this just slips out accidentally? I seriously doubt even Trump is this fucking stupid.
Right. Right.
So my point is, like, the bourgeois media is also complicit in the blood libel against Haitians.
A question for you about the Haitian migrants in Springfield. So I know you've talked a lot about how we need to deport illegal aliens, but I wanted to ask you, the majority of the Haitians in Springfield came under TPS, so they are here legally. And I know you've expressed a lot of your issues with the TPS program and wanting to change that under a Trump-Vance administration. But I guess my question for you is, if you become the vice president under a Trump administration, what will you guys do about the migrants that are already there, since they did arrive legally? And a follow-up to that, if you plan to deport them, how would you do that legally?
Well, look, this is a media and Kamala Harris fact check that I want to clarify and clear up right now. And here's
what are they cheering?
What are they cheering
now,
for?
The media loves to say that the Haitian migrants, hundreds of thousands of them, by the way, 20,000 hundreds of thousands of them all across our country, they are here legally. And what they mean is that Kamala Harris used 2 separate programs, mass parole and temporary protective status. She used 2 programs to wave a wand and to say, we're not going to deport those people here. Well, if Kamala Harris waves the wand illegally and says these people are now here legally, I'm still going to call them an illegal alien. An illegal action from Kamala Harris does not make an alien legal. That is not how this works.
All right, I think we can cut it there.
Yeah. This guy went to fucking Yale.
Renowned,
Yale, and this dumbass doesn't understand how
jackass.
this works. Like, a lot of people came here during the earthquake, which I think was really, really horrifically about her in 2009, I believe, or 2010. That was before Kamala Harris, who's like, I know it sounds like I'm defending Democrats, but I'm just explaining reality to these nut jobs. But like, she's not the president. And also, this was in 2010, before she even got into like office. This has nothing to do with Kamala. Like, these people are fucking deranged weirdos, and I just can't believe that this idiot is going with it. This is just about racism now. This isn't this because you was I'm nothing against immigrants. It's just the illegals I don't like. Even when they're told they're here legally, they're resorting. Well, I'm going to call them that anyway because they're racists.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because
this is what they are, and it's just shocking how racist they're being now.
This is it's just open and brazen. The Democrats have moved so far to the right that the Republicans have to move even further to the right, and like this is where we're at. We're at a 2008 era Republican versus these like psychopaths on the far right,
crypto fascists.
And I'd also like to take this opportunity because you might be asking yourself, like, who cares, right? The fact is, there's been at least, as far as my last count, there's 33 separate bomb threats that was in Springfield, that was sent to Springfield, Ohio. Hospitals, schools were shut down. City Hall was like evacuated. This is stochastic terrorism that these guys are fanning. It's insane. Nuts. And secondly, I'd like to point out Democrats aren't exactly off the fucking hook here either. Kamala during the debate spouted the lie that Hamas took whatever it was, 4,000 Israeli bababies and dribbled them and slam dunked them through basketball nets directly into the ovens or whatever.
Systemic rape.
During her debate with Trump, right? This blood libel has been debunked over and over again. And this is a justification for an actual ongoing genocide against the Palestinians. So suddenly their hearts bleed for Haitians, but fuck Palestine, apparently.
No. Well, Raytheon's not Raytheon, Bechtel, Lockheed Martin, all those are very expensive war contracts. So yeah, they need to keep the money going because the military-industrial complex funds the Democrats, funds the Republicans. Yeah. War is very profitable for them, so they don't give a shit.
They'll defend Haitians until it's time to do a military operation in Haiti. Then it's gonna be you don't understand that it's a state sponsor of terror, boo boo boo, like
Yep.
Well, our business interests are being threatened, so we have to overthrow the government. I mean, the United States has overthrown the Haitian government in its history at least 15-20 times. Like Smedley Butler, that thing about when I think I played that thing, he talks about invading them in 1915 in the interest of United Fruit, which is now present day Chiquita Banana. I don't know, Joe. I don't know if you've heard of Chiquita Banana, but there's a couple of hit songs. Plug. I'm just saying, someone wrote a hit song about it. But yeah, this is what imperialism does. So we destroy countries, we destroy Cuba, we destroy Venezuela, we go after Nicaragua, we go all these, and then when they finally come as refugees, we're like, why are all these refugees coming here? Like, yeah, maybe stop overthrowing the democratically elected governments of these people and stop terrorizing them. I don't know if you're that. I mean, that would cut down on a lot of migration, but capitalism and imperialism, pathetic. But yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Speaking of the genocide in Israel, I feel like this is something that like we are obligated to sort of talk about because you never ever stop talking about Gaza because this is probably one of the most important events in our lifetime, and secondly, it just keeps getting more and more insane.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys want to talk about the pager attack?
Yeah. So I did share. I'm doing meme. I'm doing this. This is my new format here. But if you want to put these two up on the screen for the crowd, just the first one. But so I'm sure a lot of you, because you're listening to our Left Opposition podcast, you're very media savvy and you know what's been going on. But I believe so Israel was able to intercept a bunch of pagers, it seems like, at one point, and then at 3:00 in a coordinated fashion they blew them all up at the same time. And these things went off in markets, they went off inside of schools. I think 25 people have died. 3,000 people have been injured from it, including the death of one 10-year-old girl, because when you start, and this is like the leftist lawyer, great on Threads if you're following her, evidently this is controversial now, but I'm opposed to blowing up things in crowded areas filled with innocent people. Shrapnel, metal, went off and killed people who happened to be nearby. If anyone had a pager near them, they got blown up. Doctors, nurses, and like I said, a lot of people carry pagers died in this whole thing. Now, imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if, Lebanon blew up a bunch of, blew up in Israel. It would be a profit. The United States would start drone striking that area. But when they do it, they're called it's very coordinated. And this is what the BBC said here. The quote here. The BBC labeled the terrorist attacks in Lebanon as sophisticated, remarkable, extraordinary, daring, audacious, and spectacular. This is terrorism. This is not like a surgical strike. Innocent people were killed, but Israel doesn't give a shit about killing innocent people because they're a terrorist government. But
and it's also worth pointing out, like it's created like chaos and psychological torture, because everyone in this whole country is like, is my phone about to explode? Is someone else's phone about to explode near me? And all of this, and it's like, people love to throw around the word terrorist, like they'll say, oh, you all throw around the word fascist. No, they're projecting. They're throwing around the word fucking terrorist, because that's been the thing that I've noticed for the past 25 years, but especially over the past year, is that people's brains fucking shut off when you say terrorism. But that's terrorism, is this like psychological, like the way that you hear about in Pakistan since Obama's administration with the drone ramp up, that like men in Pakistan just have like fucking panic attacks all the time because of the sound, or like the buzzing of the drones. And they hate sunny days because that's when the drones fly. And it's like that's, if you actually want to talk about like what terrorism is, if the word is useful at all, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not like resistance group saying like, stop fucking invading us and killing us.
Right. I think also nothing that happened as well. There was a memo that went out by the State Department that I believe said there's a U.S. hospital in Lebanon, and they told everyone to get rid of their pagers. I believe that went out. Like United, like supposedly the narrative by the United States is, oh, well, Israel told us after the fact. But, and I think, there was a thing by one of the people streaming in here, but they said there was also a U.S. military drone just off the coast of Lebanon at the time. At the same time, the pages went up, and then they just happened to leave right after. I find it hard to believe that if the United States can sit by and watch over 90,000 civilians get killed and keep shipping them weapons, this is nothing. This is kids play now. Like, the United States is not innocent in all this. The United States is the funder of Israel. They help fund it in Mossad. They do all their dirty work. My American taxpayer dollars are buying their bombs, and all those ships sitting off the coast of Lebanon and near Israel, that's us, So, yeah, the United States is supporting terrorism through their terrorist state of Israel. But wow. Yep. So that's disgusting. But the BBC wants to let you know that it was sophisticated, remarkable, and extraordinary.
Do you guys think this is a precursor to an invasion of Lebanon? Because I think part of that Zionist project has never just been settled on the West Bank and Gaza. They're already doing maps with briefings of Israel as like a greater Israel, with like the West Bank and Gaza aren't even on those maps.
Right.
They've been there's been massive military increased military presence and repression and death in the West Bank, where Hamas has absolutely zero presence. So there's not even any pretext of fighting terrorism in the West Bank. It's just Israeli terrorism. That's like if this pager attack was carried out by any other nation, especially an Arab nation, we would not hesitate one bit to call it what it is. Right.
Yeah. Right. Imagine if Russia did this to Ukraine.
Right.
Imagine a newspaper describing 9/11 as daring and audacious.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, clear and doubtly, innocent people, 2,500 people were injured. This is like a bomb going, like, and they just think we're just going to get along. Like, this, like, Israel's trying to start a regional war, in my opinion, because if this happens, Syria, Iran, Iraq, parts of the militias down there, Yemen, this will be out. And Netanyahu is really, what he's hoping to do is to draw in the United States into this war. That's what they're trying to do. I'm firmly believing that Netanyahu has to save his own ass. Now, there's mass protest against him, not for the genocide, of course. The Israeli public seems to be okay with that. But, he's a very corrupt individual, and he's trying to save his ass, and this is the one way he's going to do it. And the Democrats have shown everybody that they're not anti-war, and that they'll take the bait, and they'll support literally anything Israel's going to do, including this thing right now. But unlike, Gaza, which is like a concentration camp militia, Hezbollah has a lot more weapons, sophistication, training, and arms. Israel has shown itself that they're not that good at fighting. They're not doing well in, I mean, yeah, they can slaughter innocent civilians, with drone strikes and missiles that we pay for.
Well, and they're really good at killing their own civilians with their 19-year-old brigadier generals and shit.
That's right. There's a lot of 18-year-old lieutenant colonels in the army. Pretty good. That's amazing. You show up, there's no privates. Are there any privates or corporals in the army? Probably not in the IOF, but oh my God. But I just don't think, I just think that they're going to try to do a regional war, but I don't think any of these, I mean, Lebanon has been the subject of Israel's terrorism for 50 years. I mean, this has been going on. Lebanon's almost used to this by this point, but they kicked their ass out in 2006. This isn't a long time ago. So if Israel is going to be biting off more than it can chew, but the U.S. will bail it out. But I mean, this could be crazy. I mean, we should probably talk about Russia, Ukraine, and how that's going, because now Zelensky wants to start bombing deep inside of Russia. And that's, like I said, if we had way more time, we could discuss that.
It seems like all these people are really, really aching for like a World War III. Netanyahu knows that as soon as this war is over, he is going to be out of office. So he needs the war to continue to maintain his power. And one way he can do it is by trying to bait Lebanon into a retaliatory attack, also by destroying like all their pagers and communications infrastructure and stuff. Like definitely has them rattled. And they're also not achieving their aims in Gaza. They've invaded Gaza almost a year now, and they're not rescuing these hostages.
They probably killed them all by this point. Yeah, another 3 turned out. It was another 3 or 5 hostages were found dead, I think, recently. This week.
I don't know. I didn't hear about that.
It's hard to keep track of all the hostages they keep killing.
This week has been insane. It's like, is this what Lenin talked about when weeks can feel like decades and decades can feel like weeks? Because this really feels like one of those decades. It's just like it's completely out of the news that like a second assassin tried to kill Trump. We'll get to that in a sec.
Wait, what happened? That guy's the kid? Yeah, the 19-year-old kid. I already heard about that. And that guy's a real character, huh? Holy shit, that guy. I think he couldn't, I mean, even the Ukrainian army, I think, sent him home. That's bad. Like sex offenders are not being drafted into the military, but this guy, oh my God. But yeah. All right. God, it's just insane.
Yeah. Long story short, that's the nature of capitalist imperialism in the 21st century. Horror without end. And that's why we say, down with the warmongers. If we are to achieve peace, we must overthrow the rotten system at the root of imperialism and war.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we beat communism, because those communists killed so many people
indiscriminately. Yeah, they just dropped
400
bombs
billion,
and murdered
400 billion.
I watched Rambo 3 16 times. Okay, as a kid, I know the Soviets indiscriminately just murdered people, dropped bombs on innocent civilians. So
7 quintillion in Hungary alone.
It. No, exactly. God, I know. Minus World War II. I mean, they put the all the people that killed in all the Nazis they killed in World War II on the victims of communism memorial too.
Yeah.
Like they count the SS, I guess, and those are proud victims of communism, I think. Yeah. So
I pointed that out once to someone, and they were like, that's like 0.6% of the number or whatever. I'm like, okay, so you look at all the Nazi soldiers that were victims of communism, and you were like, this seems like a good source. I'm going to keep going. Like,
yeah. Oh my God.
Like, do I have to say, like, explain the rest?
No media literacy whatsoever.
Yeah.
God, no, absolutely none. But yeah, I just think that, well, at least when it comes to Hezbollah, there will be retaliation. I just think a lot more working class people are going to get fucking killed in this war too. Like, it's just going to be a lot more death because of this one man who cannot apparently, it's not, I mean, I don't want to, actually, let me correct myself before. It's not one man, it's a machine. You get rid of Netanyahu. Do you think we're going to have world peace? Like, it's not just him. It's just everyone. Like I said, it's more than, if all it took was taking out one guy, then if he gets thrown out, then there should be peace. But no, like I said, this has been 50 years, this war in Lebanon that Israel's been wagering on them. So this really, like I said, it's not going to stop with him. But it'd be good, it'd be, one down, to get him to justice and see him in jail.
It is like, the circumstances are different, obviously, it's a different point of history, but like, it's the same way that, like, people essentialize Hitler when it comes to World War II and the Holocaust. And it's like, well, yeah, he was a bad dude, but like, how many people around him, how many people in German government just kept letting that happen? It's
right.
And like you said, like I don't know that if Hitler had died earlier, would the Nazi party have not been like it's still the Nazi party? Come on. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, you have other people, your Eichmann and everything. So yeah, I mean, who knows? But it wasn't him. It was like I said, it was a leadership. It was your Eichmann and all the other people in there who, Goering just kept it going and led all those people to kill millions and millions of innocent civilians. And anyway, but all right. So all right, we're moving on to our next point we wanted to discuss too. I was saying, now this is me. I used to be a Teamster. I was a member of Teamsters, Local 653 for a long point. Try to organize with them. And recently it came out. Aaron, if I can share, you want to do share screen, I can probably, or I can send them over to you.
Simulink.
Okay, that's good. All right, clip. All right, let me just send a bunch over to you. I can send all of them at the same time. Oh, that works. Okay. So, those are downloading. So the Teamsters decided not to go ahead, and they decided, you want to go back to the one before that it was Sean O'Brien speaking. Let's see the first. I know. Hopefully,
you sent a fucking ton of these.
I know. That's why I was like, I'll do them. But so anyway, while you're figuring that when you get that first one up, but so there was a poll. Recently, it came out today that actually it was yesterday that this is the thing. In a surprise move, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters have decided not to endorse anyone for president. Surprising, because usually the labor bureaucracy always supports the Democrats, despite the fact that the Democrats do very, very, very little for them. I think during the Podesta email leak, I think it's even this wasn't with WikiLeaks, but the Podesta email was like, Labor's going to give us they're going to give us funding and resources, but we don't have to do anything for them. The Employee Free Choice Act, which would have made it much easier for workers to unionize. Barack Obama brought that up. They both had a majority in the House and Senate, whatever. They didn't pass it. Then you heard about the HEROES Act. That was workers who worked, essential workers, shameless like me. When we had to work during the pandemic, a lot of people stayed home. There was no vaccine. It was a messed up time in this country. They were we're gonna get you like a $8,000 bonus for working during the pandemic. Thank you for service. Thank you. They called us heroes. We were great, and they didn't do it. And now this thing called the PRO Act, which would make it easier for workers to organize again. Not happening. The Democrats don't actually do a whole lot for labor at all. Other than mine, like I said, they might do a few NLRB things, but when it comes to laws, not really. So there was a very unscientific phone poll, which is where some of this comes from, that I did want to discuss with the Teamsters. And if I can, I'll just read off part of it right here. This is from the Financial Times, but this is the quote here. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters had decided not to endorse a candidate in this November's election, signaling that a once crucial part of the Democrat support may be shifting towards Donald Trump. The powerful union announced its unexpected decision after reporting that a phone poll had found that 58% of its members wanted to endorse the Republican former president, almost twice the number favoring Vice President Kamala Harris. It is unclear which share of the 1.3 million members, which include UPS drivers, railroad workers, and nurses, were polled. Railroad workers. Weird, huh? I don't know why railroad workers wouldn't be so keen about the Democrats, unless they voted to go ahead and stop their strike and work as scabs like AOC and Joe Biden did.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you get. You don't endorse them. You don't help out organized labor. They're going to remember shit like that.
Right.
And like I said, I also worked at UPS for 5 years as well. And I get, like I said, there's a lot of that right-wing sentiment within the rank and file that does exist. But I'm sorry, the Democrats need to do a lot more for labor.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's worth pointing out one important thing that Sean O'Brien wrote there is that they want a commitment that government will stay out of labor disputes in that they won't prematurely end things like the looming railroad strike, because a lot of people will defend Biden and say, and for accuracy's sake, fair that after ending, after putting a stop to the strike, he went behind closed doors and got them some paid sick days. Okay. It's better, I guess, than only stopping it, but right. You still stopped it. That's Sean O'Brien's saying something very clearly that labor needs to understand, and people need to understand about labor, which is that we have the power, and it's not okay for some fucking bourgeois politicians to just decide, no, you don't get to use labor power and you don't get to advocate for yourselves.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
Right. Yeah. You work as strike breakers.
And by the way, the so-called historic gains that all those railroad, oh god, I'm gonna try that again.
We don't have a lot of them in North America, so we
those
we don't say it a lot.
No one knows how to say this word, railroad. Those gains have now been swallowed by inflation, so they gain nothing. Right. And what did they get? One sick day out of
that was it. I believe one.
That's crazy. What worker in the world, especially in a so-called post-COVID, because that's fucking skyrocketing again, is going to need one sick day to run the rail infrastructure?
Yep. There's I know the Independent Socialist Group has a member who's actually involved with that. We should have him on to talk about that sometime. But they've been doing great work. Nick's his name. I've known him a while. Good kid.
I get mad every time I think about it. I saw a graphic recently that said China has just built like 160,000 miles of like high-speed rail. Man, like this shit ain't hard. Like there's no fucking reason for that.
Our subway in Boston has been shut down for 6 months, and we're bragging that we can go back to the 1980s level of 50 miles an hour in Boston, and we're like, woohoo! Now that's 2 months away, but
how old rail technology is? Like 180 years old.
I feel like we should have mastered this at some point.
This out?
Yeah. And we're like, should we fix it? We're like, nah, it's just railroad. What are we going to do? And this is why everything's fucking falling apart. Meanwhile, like Cambodia, like China built Cambodia a high speed rail system that can go at like 200 goddamn miles an hour. But holy crap. So another thing too is a couple of these liberal threads. Now I've gone to Threads. I don't know if some of you are still on Twitter, formerly whatever the fuck it's called. I just can't go on that cesspool. I gave up a while ago.
it's garbage.
I've heard things about it, but
it looks like Threads isn't much better because we've got some liberal opinions about.
There is liberal, right? Where they're not saying like anything about we need to defend, Europe Defender 1488 is not really making, that gets filtered out. But I'm just saying. So if you want to go to one of the things here, Aaron, on the screen, I can say.
Here we go.
So Grace with the cat says the Teamsters are choosing Trump by not choosing either candidate. It's that simple and unsurprising. No, they picked no candidate. That's the whole thing. If the Democrats want to get the Teamsters vote, maybe do something to actually help organized labor. Maybe show up and maybe not intervene in a strike that lots of Teamsters were involved with. I think the railway workers were very pissed off at you for doing it. So I don't know. Call me crazy. All right. Oh, this one. This is from Trad Sterry. No honks, no waves next time I see a Teamster picket line. What the fuck, dude? Just no. What are you gonna cheer on the company? Are you gonna break a picket?
They didn't cheer on your team, and that's what a lot of this is. Like you got to remember, this is team sports for these people because
kidding.
The Democrats and Republicans are not fundamentally different in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Right.
This is insane. No honks, no waves.
So they're on strike. Who are you picking? I don't like a lot of Republican people, Republicans honk and wave. I have Republican members in my union. I'm not going to be we're not going to talk to Republicans in my union because they vote for Trump, even though he did want to destroy the post office. No, I still have to work with them. Even if they have bad politics, you're still in my union. And if I help you, help me, we can help each other get a good contract and get better wages, get better benefits, get more rights on the job.
Right.
That's what really matters.
It's just it's this thing that, again, I've seen this forever, but really in the last year, it's this and at the core of it, they're just giving themselves permission to do what they already want to do. But it's like these principles they say they have, and this is liberals and conservatives. These principles they say they have go right out the window the second anything they don't like happens, or something that something like this where it's just not gonna go their way to stay the status quo that they want. And it's so now we don't support labor. Okay, well,
fuck them. Yeah.
Or when people the fucking people who block traffic protesting for Palestine or whatever, and then people are like, now I want them to kill all the Palestinians.
You just lost me,
that,
buddy.
oh,
I
yeah?
was going
That's
to brunch, and
like,
now I'm late for brunch. Goddamn commies!
Like, it's psychotic. Like I can't. There's no other word for it, really. Like, these people are, yeah, like you said, Joe. Like, these people already, they're like they this person, I guarantee, never supported the Teamsters or any sort of or just,
they probably shouted "get back to work," something like that.
Yeah.
And oh god, this one, the get good girl. So does Burnley finally realize that it's always been about identity politics?
Huh?
I don't know. I think a lot of, this is what the liberals are thinking, that it must be because there's a black woman running, so therefore they don't there's no material thing about, wow, they don't do shit for us that actually helped us in the strike. There are consequences to your actions. And I'm sorry, you don't fight for the minimum, you don't fight for $15 an hour. You don't pass the PRO Act. You don't pass the Employee Free Choice Act. You do very tepid things on the NLRB. I'm sorry. But no, it must be racism. That must be it. There are many,
and sexism.
Right.
Yeah.
There are many people of color and women inside the Teamsters Union. They all vote in it. And I'm telling you, you have a lot of people with a lot of backwards politics. There are people who vote for the Democrats and if you vote for Democrats and Republicans, you're voting against your own class interest. Neither one of these parties represent it. So that's amazing that a union would not think of its class interest. What a bunch of dopes. Jesus God almighty.
Speaking of misogyny.
Oh, God.
You want to read this one?
Yep. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
From Deanna Bleachley, the level of misogyny in white male-dominated unions, ...
Oh, my God. This is the same crap, really. It's not misogyny. It's not. Do something for the members at all. Yes, are there racists who are misogynists probably in the Teamsters? Yeah, but a lot of them actually work with other races and other genders. This is it. I worked at UPS, and it was a good mix between, it was mostly male. I will say that, probably 80% male. Is a warehouse job, but it was in the city. It was inner city. So it was probably, there was Cape Verdean people, there was Puerto Rican people, there was white people, and there was black people. We all realized that the boss was fucking us over. And that was how my first, when I was 17, I started working there. That was, I had some backwards views from being kind of in a racist-y town in Massachusetts, small town. Then when I worked in the union, I realized we're all really cool with each other, and the boss is the problem. That was my beginning of becoming a leftist, was seeing reality. It was being in the Teamsters Union that made me kind of get rid of some racist fucking ideas in my head. And also, there was gay people who worked at the place. That made him less of a homophobe. Once you get to know people and you don't live on the internet, that was my first transition to becoming a leftist, of oh, we're all kind of the same. We all have our same interests. We're a little bit different, but we knew who's underpaying us and overworking us. That was it. But
I guarantee this person at some point in their online presence has unironically tweeted the clap emoji, listen to women of color, and then, in parentheses, except when they're to the left of me.
Yeah. Yep. She has a reading group of, what's that? Goddamn white fragility. Probably a big fan of that. I bet they're a big fan of that.
We should make Doug read that.
We can watch Doug's head explode live. All right, what else we got? Let's see.
Here we go. Yeah. So, anytime that anyone does something that is not in line with your liberal worldview, it must be Russia. Let them eat crow says, did Russian money go to the Teamsters bosses? The only explanation I can imagine. Yeah, but for not endorsing anyone.
Right. Yeah. For no endorsement.
And the thing is, I think it's become clear that the Russian money going into these entities seems to be pretty provable when it's true, right? Like the Tenet Media thing that came out recently,
right? Which was really happening, yeah,
right. And it's but
that was media,
so
yeah,
right. But what I'm saying is they throw that shit around all the time, and it's dude, Russia's not that competent. Right. They can clearly wield some influence and stuff, but they're not the CIA, right? They're not the KGB in its glory days. It's just they're gonna fund some shitty Tim Pool style assholes online. It's not it doesn't go as deep as you think.
No shit. And it's also the fact of like, if they actually knew anything about what happened was there was internal polling. They had the executive board, and like there was a democratic process, not the best democratic process, because those phone polls I don't like. My SEOU did them too, and they justified Hillary Clinton getting all of our PAC money support. But it's just no, Russia didn't break the strike. I'm telling you, it was Joe Biden. I'm sorry. The Democrats keep doing less and less for organized labor. And this is what's happening. A lot of blue collar people are kind of believing in this dumb shit. And they have a lot of dumb ideas, but like they did it on their own. I'm sorry to tell you that. But Jesus God, no, it's not Russian. There's no proof of your statement. This Russophobia, like these are the same people that want to burn like ban Russian cats. And get rid of like Russian vodka and shit, like just dumb stuff.
Oh, incredible.
These people do.
Yeah. And it's just like this reaction. Let them try to get help from Republicans. They don't respect. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like the what happened to reacting to something like this by saying, what are we doing or not doing that's driving away this faction? And it seems like Democrats just want, anytime they lose people, they're like, yeah, well, we can get more moderate Republicans in the suburbs. And it's like, well, that's one hell of a plan.
Yeah, that was Chuck Schumer's. Every one we lose in the city, we'll gain 2 in the suburbs. That was his formula or something.
Yeah.
That just means like we just need to get more so-called moderate and more right.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think a large, probably even majority of the American working class is very, very politically confused.
Right.
And there's a reason why half this country doesn't vote.
Oh shit. And I think, and I want to say that person is right too. Republicans don't respect or support working people. That is, yes, correct. Spoiler alert, neither did the Democrats. But like, yeah, you're right. The Republicans are not. I mean, that's the thing too. Just because the Democrats suck, because that happens. Oh, I don't like the Democrats. Oh, so you support the Republicans. And it goes vice versa. You have right wingers who are thinking you're on our side because you're going after Harris for shit. And it's like, no.
It's the I like pancakes. Oh, so you hate waffles. Like, no, bitch, that's a different sentence. And I will say though, the Republicans did welcome was it Sean Fain at the RNC?
Sean
O'Brien. Yeah, they welcome Sean O'Brien to the stage to speak. They made
him to be a useful idiot, really. Like that. I mean, that's the thing, because it gives the veneer. Just the fact he showed up and spoke. Now, I think no labor union should speak at either one of these things. I
completely agree. Yeah.
Right. But they brought him up to be like, see.
But at least they're pretending, whereas the Democrats are basically like, no, go fuck yourself.
Right. That's the thing, is the Democrats pretended for 40 years, and I think they're at a point where the party's just like, no, fuck you though. Like,
yeah, good Lord. And we got this one.
Here's some great liberal blender of liberal nonsense here.
Yep.
The Teamsters are the Matt Taibbi of dude. Go outside.
Go, please walk outside. Touch grass.
Teamsters are the Matt Taibbi of Jill Stein's. Like, I know both of those people, and this doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
No,
I don't know what this is.
No, it doesn't. Those are words, I will say, but I don't know what the Matt Taibbi of Jill Stein. Oh God damn. All right. We'll just move it on to the.
There's a bit of a text here. Do you want to read this out?
I do. I'll just read, because I know we're a bit short on time here, because I got a hard stop soon. But I'll just say this. This is a good point. I'll just read the first one I liked. This is from Mike Nip here. Some things to think about. Being in a union doesn't mean you're pro-union. I'm in a union, and although I'm pro-union, many are not. The union leadership should definitely not be supporting things or people they don't want the backing to support. Take the fact that they're not supporting anyone as a win. Right. I mean, I have plenty of people in my union who vote for politicians who are explicitly anti-union. The Republicans, like I said, they'll come running at you with a sledgehammer. The Democrats will stick a knife in your back. But the fact that anyone would think that Republicans, like the right to work, who openly want to destroy labor unions, versus the Democrats who want to slowly drown you. No, he's right. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, there's a lot of people who are like, fuck the union, I don't care. And then when they get a raise, or if they get in trouble and the union bails them out, they're like, oh, okay, I guess the union's not so bad. I had that. There's a lot of those people, but that's just a good point too. So, all right. So look, we're coming up on, last one, I swear, because I hate these people. This quote by Scott. Yeah. I've worked on many, many film sets. The Teamsters make them miserable and expensive. Oh, and I've never seen a black Teamster once on those sets. And I'm pro-union. Number one, this guy's not pro-union. You're a fucking liar. You're not pro-union at all. They make them miserable and expensive. You sound like a boss saying that shit. Yeah, my wife is a member of SAG. The Teamsters are there. They do a lot of the rigging and everything. I'm glad, and we call them our union brothers and sisters, but they work together. And because he's personally never seen a black Teamster, they must not exist.
Yeah,
I can take him to the UPS I used to work at, dude, and I can show you plenty of black Teamsters.
I would love to see this guy work on a non-union film set and fucking tell me how great it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and for like 1/3 the pay. And by the way, you'll be working 19 hours a day. Like those film things, they're bad. They're in bad shape with the union. A non-union set, my good Lord Almighty, people get killed on set. Like that's happened with non-union safety rules.
Fucking camera woman got shot by Alec Baldwin
because he wanted to hire non-union scabs.
Because the union workers walked off set because it was unsafe.
Right.
And so he hired the prop director's like nephew, his 14-year-old who was only familiar with like airsoft guns. Like this is what happens when you hire scab labor when you don't have that kind of workforce and you don't respect
in a right
them.
to work state. Right.
The Elon Muskification of the economy.
Yeah. My God, that's amazing. So, all right. I think that's it for, did we get all of them?
Yeah, we got them all.
We did. All right. Awesome. So okay.
Do you want to finish with the closing statement here of what you wrote in chat?
I did. Oh, yeah. So I'll just put this up too. And this was a quote by Sean O'Brien who said it. And I got to say, it's a banger. Unfortunately, neither major party. I'm sorry. Let me start again. Unfortunately, neither major candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business. Union President Sean O'Brien said in a statement, "We sought commitments from both Trump and Harris not to interfere in critical union campaigns or core Teamster industries and to honor our members' right to strike, but we were unable to secure those pledges. That's why, my dear liberal friends on Threads, they didn't support you because they can't make that commitment. They're strike breakers. They support scabbing, and they're not your friend. We need a working class socialist or communist party that will actually defend the right of workers. That is what's needed in this country. We don't need Democrats. Of course, whoever's in power, Democrat or Republican, we will always pressure them. We'll always go after them. We'll always call them out for the sellouts that they are because they're loyal to Wall Street, not to the workers. So yeah, until we have a mass socialist or mass communist party in this country, neither one of these parties represent the working class. All right. So thank you, everyone here. That'll be our show. If you do want to listen to us, please check us out on Spotify for our stream. We do have a Patreon, which is the Left Opposition Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, where we do update it pretty regularly. Yeah, so if you can do that, that's great. Also, I once again want to thank our Patreon supporters. We know times are tough. This economy is shit for working class people. It's getting tough out there. And we know any sacrifice you can give, if it's $5, $2, more, that's great. That's fine. But that helps us keep the cost down for the Zoom, the microphones, that's it right there. So we really do appreciate any support you can give us. But please share, like our content if you can. That does help us out on the algorithm. So thank you very much for listening. And so keep up the fight, keep up the struggle. So for me, Chris, Joe, and Aaron, we want to say thank you for listening. And we will be back at our normal time at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you want to come on the chat, that would be cool. We like to read them as much as we can. It's hard to do both. But yeah, anything else we got to plug? Or is that it?
I think
we got it. All right. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. All right, everyone. See ya. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.